I see myself as a very balanced and fair dude, and I hope that's how my audience sees me as well. When I get a piece of information, I relate to you, and what I do is I tell you what I think, but also I allow you, which I don't have to give you permission, but you get within this platform a chance to speak back and tell me what you think. That's very, very important for a healthy modern platform. But it's also got to be something that I do, that when I see that something's wrong, that when a bunch of people are putting propaganda out to hurt something, that I have to speak about it. And something fundamentally wrong has happened this week in terms of our fandom, in terms of its divide, in terms of the way James Gunn's being treated. And I don't really care if you like James or you hate James. I've criticised him in the past. I've given him credit in the past. Again, I think I'm a very balanced individual. And as I say, I hope you, my audience, feel that way. I have to fundamentally come onto the side of James Gunn this time, because he's announced some DC characters apart from Superman and Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen in Superman Legacy, and this is being used against James for all the wrong reasons. The people saying that they're concerned about overcrowdedness and oversaturation of DC characters in Superman Legacy know that the movie's not going to be overstuffed or oversaturated. It's just a stick they're using to bash James over the head because James happens not to be Zack Snyder. We all know what's going on here. Now, James Gunn has explained himself and what he's trying to do with this film and this universe very eloquently, and I liked what he had to say. I'm glad he's responded to the haters, to the people who are trying to misinform you, the genuine, loving, passionate DC fans. I don't want to speak for the fans, but I think because most of you don't have platforms and are the quiet majority, you're not the loudmouths on here, you're not the loudmouths on Twitter, maybe you don't have the confidence to speak to me, to give me your opinions, but I know how you feel. Like me, a lot of you are really, really excited for James Gunn's DC universe. Like me, you're very excited with what he's attempting to do. This is a guy who's been reading all forms of comics, who grew up with Looney Tunes. He grew up with the shit we did. James Gunn genuinely wants to give us something great. Believe me, I believe that. Whatever went wrong with Henry Cavill and Snyder and all of that, that's not James Gunn's fault. And trying to destroy what he's doing with fake propaganda and lies doesn't get Snyder back. You know me. You know I love the Snyderverse. But fair's fair. And this is the part, where I repeat. This is why I feel I'm a balanced dude. And this is why you should subscribe to this platform. Not because I'm desperate for followers, because I'm here because I love the sound of my own voice. I'm not going to lie about that. I decided I was fed up of other people doing the talking for me. So I decided I wanted the whole world, well, not the whole world because I don't get many views, but I wanted to get out what was inside me. I'm a guy, because of my father, who grew up on sets, who grew up in this industry. Now, my father was nobody famous, but we did grow up around the industry. That's all you need to know. So I learned a lot about this industry, and I know the bad people and the good people. I'm not saying James Gunn is perfect, but he's no supervillain either. He's a geek and he's a nerd just like us. And I think if you put your hand on your heart and you're honest, that you can say that James, in terms of comic book movies and Peacemaker, has done a really good job. Maybe it's not to your taste, maybe it's not like Snyder does it, but everyone's different. Why should he be like Zack Snyder? And ultimately, what James is trying to do with Superman Legacy and DC Universe is create a universe with a pre-existing superhero culture. In other words, this is a franchise where superheroes exist, and this is why he's casting lots of DC characters. And he explained it really, really well. I thought it was great what he said. He's got his Daily Planet family, Perry White, Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane, but then he's got his metahuman family. And that's the point. And he's going to be casting a hell of a lot of DC characters for this movie. But I want to implore you and kind of reassure you, just because even if he casts 20 DC characters, it doesn't matter. Because I believe you're basically going to see Superman going in the Hall of Justice, and there's going to be a lot of these characters there. Because it's a living, breathing DC universe with all these characters existing. Hawkgirl, you know, members of the Green Lantern Corps, you know, Batman, the Bat Family, you know, Plastic Man, they're all going to be there. They all exist in this universe. And for me, this is something I've dreamt about. And I know this is something that many DC fans have dreamt about. This is a very exciting concept. When you open up a DC comic, this is what it's like. They're living, breathing universes with existing heroes in there already. You know, Superman knows Plastic Man, Superman knows Blue Beetle, and there's some very interesting dynamics to be had. That's what I want to see. That's what I've always wanted to see. And it's great. Not even the MCU did this, having a living, breathing Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's something that was slowly built up through time. But James Gunn doesn't have that kind of time. And plus, it's more fun. It's exciting to have a living, breathing DC superhero universe with a Hall of Justice and the Watchtower and the Justice Society and, you know, a Justice League Dark and a Justice League. All these different elements. You know, it's, you know, like having superhero teams like the Authority. There's going to be a lot of superhero characters, iconic DC characters in Superman Legacy and in this universe, whether you like that or not. And I don't see why there's so much negativity, and I think it's bullshit negativity. Is it that Aaron Fisher guy who's got a YouTube channel, big Snyderverse stan? He tagged James Gunn and said, is this just a movie for children or can adults enjoy it? Breaking news. Siegel and Schuster invented Superman for children. That's why when we were kids, we fell in love with Superman and we grew up being fans. Basically, anyone can be a Superman fan or a fan of anything. If you still like the fucking Teletubbies, that's fine with me. But that's such a dumb thing to say. Is it just going to be like a cartoon? Is it going to be just for kids? Well, sorry, Aaron. Yes, it will appeal to children. The problem is, with adult fans, with Snyderverse stans, they want to take families and children out of the occasion. And I'm sick to death of adult fans wanting everything R-rated, wanting everything for adults and not for kids. If we don't introduce these DC characters to the next generation, then there won't be any fans in the future. And these iconic universes and these iconic DC characters will die out. If I didn't watch Superman the movie as a kid, if you didn't watch Superman the movie as a kid, you wouldn't be watching this video now, and I wouldn't be talking about what I'm talking about now. And that's the point. It's fundamentally very important and very exciting what James Gunn is doing. I don't understand what you want the man to do. You want him to create another dark universe. You want him to create another, you know, kind of polarizing franchise. I don't want that. We've had that. It didn't work for everyone. As I say, I love the Snyderverse, but it didn't work for everyone. It's not fair for you people to insist on something that everyone wasn't united in loving. As I say, if they wanted to restore the Snyderverse in a corner in the Elseworld, I'd love that. I'm not against it happening, right? But the point being, what James Gunn is doing, what I'm hearing he's doing, and the casting he's making, and creating a DC universe with existing heroes, where heroes have existed for quite some time, where Superman's been there for about a year. That's interesting as well. He's already assured us that the protagonists, the main characters in Superman Legacy, are Superman, Clark Kent, and Lois Lane. So for those of you that are butthurt that are criticizing this. And sometimes when I see people criticizing things, I say, yeah, hang on, you've got a point. I've made lots of different points. Sometimes I've been right, sometimes I've been wrong. Look, I've been on YouTube since 2018. You're going to find lots of times where I've been wrong and lots of times where I've been right. That's what being a person speaking their mind on a platform is all about. You can remind me of all the mistakes I've made. That's okay. But at the end of the day, I'm in full support of what James Gunn is doing. I've never been more passionate about this situation. A Superman movie that launches a DC universe that says, yes, these characters already exist. All your favourite characters. If your character's a smaller character you've never seen in live action, aka Plastic Man, who I mentioned earlier, he's going to be there. I like Plastic Man, right? I want Plastic Man to kind of, be with, kind of have scenes with Batman and Superman. I want Blue Beetle to meet Superman. This is something we didn't get in the Shazam universe. We had fake Henry Cavill's Superman. So many mistakes were made. But those mistakes were not made by James Gunn. Now, Die Hard Snyderverse stands want to basically blame James Gunn for the Kennedy assassination. They were blaming him for the failure of The Flash. It wasn't his fault. Yes, it was his idea to introduce Clooney. Not the greatest of ideas, but he had to cut out Keaton and he had to cut out other elements. It's a bit of a mess, but at the end of the day, the film messing up, the film flopping isn't down to James Gunn. But if it helps you sleep better at night and to blame Gunn for it, listen, the Flash flopping has a multitude of reasons. There's a multitude of reasons why the Flash flopped. I said a couple of weeks ago, months ago, whatever, when the film was first released, I could be here forever explaining to you why that movie failed, and I don't want to talk about that anymore. It's failed, it's flopped, it's over like every single DCEU movie for quite some time now. So we know the issue. We know that the issue isn't with DC. The issue is with the DCEU. The DCEU was organized chaos since the beginning. Since 2013. And as I say, I love the Snyderverse, but it's been organized chaos since 2013, and it was never going to work. It was polarizing. It divided audiences. Snyder goes, this one comes in, they go, then somebody else comes in. You can't run a franchise. You can't run the entertainment business like that. If you ever want to see how not to run a business, watch how the DCEU was run. Now, James Gunn is here with Peter Safran. James Gunn has a vision of a living, breathing, pre-existing superhero kind of DC universe. And that utterly excites me. And I think, and I don't like talking about real DC fans and Snyder fans. I don't do that. But I do feel if you don't have any objectives, if you don't have an agenda, I think you can think about what James is doing here and actually be quite excited. I really want to talk about the SAG-AFTRA strike, the Actors Union strike, and the Writers Guild strike. I really want to explain to you the fundamentals. But before we do that, and by the way, I think it's important that this channel fundamentally explains to you what's going on so you understand, so you're informed. So when you go out there in the big wide world or on social media and talk about it, you don't look like an idiot. Because right now, people are looking like idiots. And it's very important you understand this pivotal situation in the industry's history. But what is the positives of James Gunn populating Superman Legacy with a pre-existing franchise full of these DC characters? Well, first of all, it's exciting. It's something we've never seen before, not in live action. We've never seen a DC live action show or a movie where all these characters exist. Maybe they've existed, but it's basically tell and not show. Now we're going to see this living, breathing DC universe where superheroes have existed for quite some time, where there is a Hall of Justice, right, where there is a Watchtower, where there are these different superhero teams that have existed via the comics. And James Gunn is going to give us that. So, yeah, away from some of the negativity, I think mostly people are utterly excited. The problem is in life, the loud voices are heard and the quiet voices are not heard. We will see if DC has a bigger problem than we think in 2025 when this movie is released. But I think the problem is with the DCEU, not the DCU, because the Batman and Joker made money. So people will go and see Joker 2, people will see the Batman 2, and I believe people will go and see Superman Legacy if they like the marketing, if they like what they see, and I think people are very excited. But if you're a comic book fan, there's nothing more exciting than seeing a populated DC universe with these iconic DC characters, and I really can't wait to see how this whole thing plays out. Because it's something new, it's something exciting, it's something I wanted from the DCEU from the very beginning. Now I want to talk about the views for the Blue Beetle second trailer. Apparently they're not very good. Now I don't know if this is a case of propaganda merchants putting fake numbers on screenshots, because it's easy to fake a screenshot, isn't it? So, you know, I don't know. But it is looking very, very worrying for the Blue Beetle box office that the trailer views are not very high for Blue Beetle. I suppose it's not that surprising. Blue Beetle isn't a huge character, and, you know, without setting up the DCU properly is going to be a problem. So this could show us that Blue Beetle could flop, and flop hard, that it could be solid, or it could be a surprise hit. I don't know what's going to happen. I do know I like the second trailer. I know that I really want this film to be successful. But the trailer views, if true, let's just say it's not looking good for Blue Beetle at this point. I believe the reason that so many people are suffering with depression, you know, self-harming, taking their own lives, you know, having so many more mental health problems than we did, you know, 30 to 50 years ago, because we live in a polarizing society. We're all on social media throughout the day, seeing takes we don't agree with. And when you're just going down, seeing people saying stuff that annoys you, that triggers you and hurts you, it's never going to be good for your mental health. Also, when you're looking at your profile and you can see that people are not following you, not interacting you, that's also not good for some people. Now, that kind of thing doesn't bother me because I've got big D energy, I've got a big ego, and I couldn't care less. As I say, I'm just on social media to say my piece and to say my piece and move on. Even if we debate, even if we argue, I don't hold grudges, I don't care. I just give my opinion. If someone responds to me, I defend myself and I say why I think what I think. But I do think this is why we're in this kind of, you know, society today where people are suffering so deeply. It's very, very difficult because really social media is a popularity contest in a way, and not everyone can get anywhere near winning that contest. And it's very, very sad. And we do live in a very polarizing world. And we know that the entertainment industry has also become very, very polarizing. You know, the industry talking down to its audience, calling its fans racist, sexist, bigots. You know, the bros situation will never get old for me, where, you know, one of the people from that film said that straight people were homophobic for not supporting the movie. First of all, why don't you ask the millions of gay men why they didn't support that movie, but they did support Top Gun Maverick? Maybe people don't want to see themselves on the big screen. Maybe people just want to see good shit. Anyway, in this final portion of today's video, I want to move away from DC and talk about the SAG-AFTRA Actors Union industrial action strike and the Writers Guild of America industrial action as well. What's it all about? So I don't care if you like Hollywood or hate Hollywood, if you hate the people, you think they're snooty little gits. But one thing we've got to get absolutely clear here: the reasons why this industrial action is happening. It's not because the actors and writers are greedy gits who just want more money. There are fundamental and complicated situations. I was trying to explain it to my sister last night and she really wasn't getting it. Let me see if I can explain it to you in layman's terms so you can understand. This is not just about getting more money. So when the streaming platforms started to happen, right, when Netflix and then the big corporate studios decided to say, oh my God, they're doing well out of that, why should we allow them to show our content? Well, we could do the same thing and keep everything in-house. So everyone started setting up streaming services. The problem is the pay structures for actors and writers, cast and crews didn't change. They were still paying people the same way they did with the networks and the studio system. Now, of course, you cannot pay people with streaming in the same way you pay someone who does a television show or a movie. Why? Because you've got people binging and re-binging and re-binging every single day. Sometimes the same shit. So fundamentally, when they started doing streaming movies and streaming shows, they should have created new contracts for the actors, the writers, and everyone who works within the industry. They did not do that because they didn't want to pay more money, and they were getting away with it for quite a long time. But now, the blag is over. The scam is over. The actors and writers want to pay fairly. Now, if you're shouting at your screen and saying, I don't care about these rich actors and writers, take a deep breath. I have many friends who are actors and writers who are not famous, who at this moment in time can't even feed their families, their children. They can't support themselves. It's fundamentally an urgent situation. They're treated like slaves, they're not paid well, and it's really about them more than the famous people. So one of the issues is the streaming situation. But the most important fundamental issue with both unions, SAG-AFTRA and the WGA, is artificial intelligence. Because what the industry want to do is get an actor's image and use it with AI technology and pay them once and that's it. And the actors are not happy, rightly not happy about that situation. In terms of artificial intelligence and the Writers Guild of America, the problem is they want to reduce the hours of writers and they want AI to be doing most of the work. That's the problem. And it's not for us, we have to ask the question, is the work of an AI as good as, the work of a human actor and a human writer? At this moment in time, no. But what they want to use the human writers and the human actors to and pay them minimally and reduce what they do so the AI learns, because that's what artificial intelligence does. It learns, and it gets better and better and better. So ultimately, they won't need human actors anymore. Obviously quite a few years from now, or human writers. It's a bit like the good old days in the 80s and 90s when we went into the supermarket. You had 20, 30 checkouts. You had 30 people on a Saturday working behind the checkout. Now that's been quartered because of self-checkouts. Nobody complained about self-checkouts. We thought, oh, this is good, this is new, this is easier, but people lost their jobs. And this is what AI not just means for Hollywood, but it means this for every industry. This is a fight. Do we want artificial intelligence to take over our world, take our jobs? Of course we don't. This is man versus machine. And this fight going on between the Writers Guild of America Union and the SAG-AFTRA Actors Union in Hollywood is fundamental. Now, this is the major reason they're both on strike, because they want to use them, they want to use their images in terms of the actors, pay them a one-off payment, which is not enough, and then they've got their images and they can use them forever. And I've already explained to you the streaming situation. They never re-modernized contracts for streaming. Outsiders of this industry, outside of Hollywood, think that Hollywood is an ever-changing, modernized industry. But really, it's an industry stuck in the past, stuck in time. These are very, very backwards people, and they haven't moved on. Someone was telling me yesterday they still do they haven't changed the way kind of the SAG-AFTRA members actually vote whether they're going to have industrial action or not. Imagine that. This is not a modern, ever-changing industry and environment. This is a very backwards environment, and the corporate, in corporate Hollywood just wants to make money and is trying to shaft everyone. They're trying to shaft you and me, the audience, with a lack of quality. They're trying to shaft the actors and the writers. Now, I know that today's actors and writers don't come across really well. Half the time, they look like they're talking down to us. Most of us, not most of us, but most of them are activists. And, the other day, they're supposed to be demonstrating because they're striking, the writers, and they were talking about birth control and stuff like that. And it's like, this is why people are not connecting with you. Because the problem is, if they want this industrial action to be effective, we need to be on their side. And unfortunately, the relationship between Hollywood talent and the consumer is a chasm. The relationship has become so broken because they talk down to us, because of their activism, because of their hatred. And this is the problem. This is the moment we can turn all that around. Because I want to stand with the actors and writers, because I think their fight is right. It doesn't matter if I like them or respect them or like Hollywood or how Hollywood conducts itself. It's not about that anymore. This is about the future of this industry. Because right now, it may not have a future. Because the issues are so fundamental, whether we're talking about the writers or the actors, that we may not see any movies back in production for the next 12 months. That's the reality. This is not like the 2007, 2008 Writers Guild of America industrial action. Those issues were simple, or more simple than this. I've explained to you what the issues are. They're complex, they're not straightforward, and it's not just about a bunch of wealthy, greedy people demanding more money, and it's very important that you all understand that, so when you formulate an opinion on this, you've got the facts, and now you've got the facts, and that's my opinion on it. So I back the writers, I back the actors. I think it's fundamentally important that they get back to work as soon as possible, but this thing with AI and streaming has to be sorted out. And in terms of artificial intelligence, corporate Hollywood isn't budging. They really want to use AI, and they want to use it a lot, while reducing the hours of the writers and and not paying the actors enough money for their images so AI can use those images. And that's where we are in Hollywood. The studios and the networks are not going to budge on this because they've seen an opportunity. The only solution to this problem, to get the actors and the writers to work, and it's a simplistic one, it probably won't happen, is just to put AI on the shelf for now and say, we ain't going to get this done. And there's a problem for corporate Hollywood now, because once the actors start talking, people like De Niro, people like Pacino, you're going to have a very, very big problem, because there's still actors out there that people like. And, they're going to be fundamentally speaking, truths and throwing truth bombs out there. It's not a good look. Also, Bob Iger blatantly came out and said that the Writers and Actors Union are not being realistic with their demands. In other words, they're saying that you're not going to get what you want. We're going to insist that artificial intelligence dominates this industry, whether you like it or not. But the problem is, we're not 20 or 30 years ago. We're in a digital era. We know everything that goes on because people from the industry now are coming out bitching about each other. So we know, I've always known, as I say, I grew up as a kid in this industry anyway. But you lot understand what's going on because all you have to do is go on Twitter. So it's a very different world we live in today. Hopefully we don't get to a situation where artificial intelligence dominates this industry. But if they carry on like this, there will not be an industry anymore. As I say, we could not, film and TV productions may not get back to being, people from the industry may not go back to work for the next year. It could be even worse than that, because I genuinely don't see how this checkmate between the writers, the actors, and corporate Hollywood can move from this checkmate. Because I don't see the actors or writers budging on this, and I don't see the industry budging on this. Now, here's the thing. Now, we've heard reports that they're just hoping the writers start to basically go hungry, can't pay their rent, so they have to do a deal. So they're just going to let these people wait. Basically, the industry is going to wait the actors and the writers out. So then when kind of the people like my friends who are struggling, they can't eat, they can't survive, can't pay their rent, are putting pressure on these unions to go back to the table, this is what this cruel industry is hoping for. We will see what happens. But right now, I'm telling you, there are no easy solutions. And all those movies, like Superman Legacy, we're excited to see could be delayed. At this moment in time, I believe James Gunn knew about the SAG-AFTRA industrial action. I think he secretly cast everyone. He knows what he's doing. I don't think he can announce them now that there's a SAG-AFTRA strike. He'll probably have to wait, but I think he's done everything. But without actors, you can't start shooting a movie. At this moment in time, Superman Legacy is not officially delayed, but I think if we get to the end of the year and, SAG-AFTRA and the Writers Guild of America haven't come to the table, then I think Superman Legacy and many movies that were planned will be delayed, and that's a great shame.